So today we're going to be doing a little bit of art criticism. Art criticism is where we're discussing works of art. It's not that you are making fun of or critiquing it per se, but you're talking about it and learning to talk about it intelligently. And the reason that we do this is to provide you with insight into the works of art that you're going to be looking at throughout the year and into your own works of art as you create them later on. It doesn't, again, there's not a negative connotation with this. It's just to help provide you with the steps to look at and look deeper into works of art and to, again, speak intelligently about them. The work that we're going to be looking at is Fatherhood by Wes Hempel. It was painted in 1997, oil on canvas, and it's hanging in the Denver Art Museum. And you can take a look at this painting right here. So our first step in criticism is to just write down your initial response. What do you first notice? How does it make you feel? And does it relate to you in any way, shape, or form? For me, the thing that stands out most, well, there's several things. The thing that jumps out is the soccer ball, because it's juxtaposed with these very classical architecture, classical clothes, the nude children, the man who's staring right out at you, his uncomfortable look. Okay, and does any of it relate to you? Probably not. Beyond the soccer ball, you're probably thinking, I'm not sure what's happening here. So that's just the initial response step. What is your gut reaction? What does your gut tell you about this piece? The second is to describe it. Okay, now that you've taken a moment to look at it, what are you seeing? Okay, again, we see the man. Let's go ahead and write this down. The man, and he's staring straight at us, and he looks concerned, confused. What kind of hair does he have? Take a look at that for a second. He's got this modern haircut, okay, with what we call a spit curl. And that's supposed to remind you of Superman, actually, having the same hairdo. You noticed, you can describe that he is nude from the waist up. He is wearing these classical red and white robes. He's, again, sitting in this classical architecture. He's holding on to these kids, but they're spilling out of his lap. So many that they can't even fit on his lap. There's some down here below. Again, he's resting his foot on this soccer ball, and then there's this thing right here that the kid is kneeling on, and that's actually just a cushion. If you zoom in to the background, you can see, okay, we've got this setting back here with bridges, this classical, very classical setting, natural setting. The children, again, are nude, and they're supposed to remind you of like a Cupid or a cherub, little angels, okay? Very classical in feeling. And then this kid down here is kneeling on some books. So now for step number 3, you're offering your own interpretation. What is this about? And connections. You're supposed to make connections with this piece now and think about it in terms of what the artist was trying to say. So if we think about this in terms of the title, in terms of fatherhood, what might the meaning of this painting be? This guy clearly looks unready to be a dad. Okay? He's got this shocked look on his face. He probably didn't know 5 minutes ago that he even was a dad. You get these kids, too many of them to even fit on his lap. They're spilling out. He's hanging on barely as they're spilling out of his lap. A dad is responsible for and different aspects of children's lives, and so these are reflected in the kids themselves. Okay, so the one that's asleep in his arms, dads are responsible for their safety, for their nurturing, okay, to keep them safe so that they can sleep at night. Dads are responsible for their learning, to make sure they get a good education and become productive members of society. Dads are responsible for their recreation. Kids need to be well-rounded, they need to play sports, extracurricular activities, and become, again, a productive member of society. Dads need to provide for warmth. This kid is clearly cold down here, and their security. Again, and what do these two want? If you ask yourself what these two are looking for, where they're positioned on him, they're looking for something that he cannot actually provide them. They're looking for food, okay? Thus, again, giving him this kind of shocked look. So before we move on then, what kind of connections are we supposed to make? How does this relate to other works of art, and what is the artist trying to remind us of? If typically when we see a man frontal facing, sitting in a classical type setting with his foot raised, it's supposed to remind you of something, and that's the interpretation then of this piece. Okay? That we're going back to here, to the interpretation, that he's playing with the ideas of fatherhood. So based on step number 4, the evaluation, based on the meanings of the work, the mood, the function, is this successful or not? And you've got to decide that for yourself. So go ahead and write that down. Does this successfully comment on fatherhood? You may ask yourself, why is he in classical setting, classical garb, with a modern haircut? He's clearly a modern 21st century man with the soccer ball. Maybe the artist is trying to say that dads have always been like this. This isn't something new. This isn't a new phenomenon. Okay? So go ahead and decide for yourself, is this successful in what it's trying to do, what it's trying to accomplish? Lastly is the step of speculation. How would you, if you could change this painting, how would you change it to better understand it? What other possibilities are applicable to this? Would it mean the same thing, for example, if you changed the setting, if you changed the race, okay, of the subject or subjects? Would that make a difference at all? So go ahead and imagine a couple different scenarios or possibilities where we change an aspect of the painting. Would it matter if the kids were clothed? Would it matter if he was in a polo shirt? Okay, go ahead and imagine some of those possibilities and write some of them down. The ultimate question is, how would you change it if you could? Is what would happen if there was a woman? Would the meaning of the painting change? And I'll have a slide here and show you. Here. It's actually supposed to remind you of Jesus, okay? Where he's sitting in power, his hand raised in a blessing. The fingers are in a similar type positioning. He's dressed in red and white, as Christ often is, and his foot is resting on a sphere. When it's Christ and his feet are resting on a sphere, Here again, we get the red and the white robes. The sphere is representative of the world. So that Christ it's showing Christ as the king of the world, sitting in majesty and power, where this guy, Dad, here, does not really look like he is king of anything. Okay? He looks completely out of his element. So these images that we've been looking at, these are Greek-style images. They're icons, okay? Greek Orthodox icons. But this image, then, is supposed to remind you of these ones over here. They're also supposed to remind you of what they are not. Okay? We're used to seeing pictures of mothers with children. Very tender, very loving images. And this is supposed to juxtapose with that collective idea. Okay? Again, we're used to seeing Mary, mother of Jesus, holding the Christ child. We're not really used to seeing pictures of dads with kids, especially in this kind of classical context. Very sweet, very loving, very nurturing, again, juxtaposed with Dad, who's very shocked. And the reason why they do this, I mean, he plays off of this idea, again, with this painting Fatherhood, because like when you're watching a TV show and it's a sitcom, it's supposed to be funny. If there's going to be a single parent, it's always going to be the dad. It's never going to be the mom. And the reason for that is Dad is an idiot. And that's how we perceive them in our culture. That Dad is funny. It's funny when you throw a single dad in with kids because he doesn't know what he's doing. A single mom with her kids is not funny. Okay? So Wes Hempel, the artist, then is playing with these ideas, that this guy is supposed to look like Christ, but clearly is not in power or majesty. He's in a state of shock. He's supposed to play with the idea that dads are not as together as moms, okay? That dad doesn't really play as big a role in the rearing or the nurturing of children. For example, our culture accepts that a man can carry a wallet, which is just for his needs, whereas a mom carries a purse, which in there, she's got gum and everything else that everyone could possibly want, okay? But we accept that Dad is able to just carry his wallet for himself and take care of his own needs. Yes. So that is, okay. Again, if you could change something, what would you change? This is actually a painting. The one on the left now is a painting painted in the early 20th century, and it's called Charity by William Adolphe Bouguereau. Okay? The setting is almost identical. The children are identical. The positions of the hands are identical, even down to the cushion. The books are the same. The expressions on the children's faces are the same. Their hairdos are the same. The only real difference is the background. Here it's closed. She's sitting in a sculptural niche. She has her foot raised on a pot of money as opposed to a soccer ball. And it's a woman. But again, clothed in red and white robes. So what difference then does it make? It completely changes the meaning of the painting. The title Charity implies that she is able to, being a personification of the love of God, she's able to care for all these kids, provide for their needs. Even though he's still cold, even though these guys are still hungry, she's able to provide and nurture these children. Okay. Whereas Dad, over here in Fatherhood, just looks completely weirded out. So Wes Hempel actually took, and he's purposely appropriating this image. He's stealing this image, essentially, to play with that idea, to play with that concept of gender roles. Are dads as capable as moms? Are men as capable as women in the nurturing and rearing of children? This painting right here then is a painting of Joseph, Saint Joseph, with the Christ child. Okay, so there are paintings that exist within art history that show a competent, loving father. Okay, but what then is Wes Hempel saying about dads? Okay, so that is in a nutshell, going through those steps. So then with these, with this information that you've collected, you can now write a cohesive-ish paper. And this is going to be our writing assignment for this quarter. So I'd like you to answer the following questions. And these questions then can guide you to creating this paper. So the first example, the questions, the answers to this first set of questions can be paragraph 1. The pertinent information about the painting. Who's it by? When was it made? Where is it hanging at? What's it made out of? The purpose of the painting. Why was it created? What was it about? And is it successful? So that can be your paragraph number 1. Your paragraph number 2, how does that painting make you feel initially? What's the artist trying to get you? What the gut reaction? Okay, and what brings about those feelings? And then you go into the description. What else can you see, and how do those objects make you feel? And do they add to your gut reaction, or do they contrast with it? So paragraph number 3, you're going to talk about your interpretation. Okay, what is this painting supposed to be about? And how do you think that, how would you describe its meaning? Are there alternative or alternate interpretations? Do some things remain consistent through all your interpretations? Okay, maybe grab somebody else and have them also look at a painting and say, hey, this is what I'm feeling. Is that what you think too? Okay, and how did you get there? How did you arrive at your interpretation? What are the internal clues within the work, and then the outside sources, for example, the title of the painting? Okay. Lastly, are there other possibilities or alternatives? And how would the work change if you address those alternatives? And that is its own paragraph. The conclusion then, you're just restating the information from up here. So last paragraph then, pertinent information, the purpose of the painting, what's it about, and is it successful and why? So your paper then should be written in Times New Roman. It should be 12-point font. Single space, double space between 2 paragraphs. Okay? I'm looking for at least 2 complete pages. List only your name and the class period in the upper right-hand corner of the paper, please. Again, no crazy font, no crazy spacing. Okay, and these are what I'm looking for this paper, for this quarter. So I would like you, again, to write your paper about Wes Hempel's Fatherhood. You've already done the steps of it now, so now you can hopefully write your paper. If you have questions, please come and see me and we'll talk about it.